For those of you who were here at the beginning of the day, hopefully most of you go back to my scale here, my balance of resilience and risk. And when you're thinking, I started off talking about ocean resiliency, but I think thanks to Andrea, and depending upon what definition of resilience you use, our ocean is resilient. It always has been. Our ocean will be around a long time. Yeah, there may not be ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs and all the other beasties that were swimming around the ocean, but what's the resiliency that we're really concerned about is the resiliency of the current global ocean ecosystem that includes humanity. It's the human ocean and species that we know today ecosystem, I think, that is at risk. And balancing that risk is the key problem that we have to solve. That understanding, I think, is one of the key takeaways that I'm walking away with. So the fulcrum of my pyramid, as I've talked about, was this very simple decision-making triangle that I came up with in pyramid. This has been grandly expanded and warped and changed throughout the course of today, such that now it's a 3- or 4-dimensional pyramid, thanks to Bob, but we've looked at it now as a multi-dimensional object with different aspects based on time and space. And I appreciate that. I think that's very informative. I think when we look at below this pyramid rests on what Andrea said, this growing understanding that we have this water, food, energy nexus. It's the crisis of the day. I was going to give one final question to Senator Whitehouse, but I didn't, I was about a second late, as I usually am, as he walked off. So, and I would just say that when I came into the Navy in 1983, the crisis of the day was the Cold War. The belief by about half the people, half the population of the planet probably, that our species would end due to a nuclear holocaust, fallout, amazing incident. Not quite to the extent of the asteroid, 8 million of them, but something along those lines. It was the crisis of the day. Now, I believe the crisis that faces us really is centered around that food, water, energy crisis, which is wrapped around the ocean, atmosphere, climate context. I'm not sure, I don't know, I think we all understand that in this room. That is the crisis of the day. That's the crisis that we face that really gets after the long-term resilience of the ocean human life ecosystem. I'm not sure people over in government, people over on the Hill understand the extent of that crisis that we're in right now. I know a lot of people do, thanks to a lot of, very smart, very well-read people who understand that. So we need to make sure that we're putting that context forward as it's a crisis of the day. It's our crisis. So when Admiral Watkins was talked about earlier, and he went over to Congress and said that oceanography solved the Cold War. Oceanography gave our undersea leg of the nuclear triad the advantage to end the Cold War. And the question, what would Admiral Watkins say to that? I think he would say that ocean science, and that's that ocean climate, atmospheric science, geoscience, can solve the Cold War problem of today. And I think that would be his leading argument. And how do you do that is the hard part. And there are a lot of experts in that room, but we've heard a lot of that. So then, as we talked about moving both ways up and down this pyramid, I thought it was very instructive that we also talked about to get to the decision and make things relevant, we had to look at salience, legitimacy, and credibility as a key to getting from science to decisions as well. And I think that's a key point. Regardless of which one is going to get you to decision by the right people, that's a key part of that process. So I thank the panel also for that, your panel, Bob and Dave. So another key takeaway for me, and I thank you, DJ, for coming in and talking about some key examples. I think the other speakers, too, from both sides are talking about, giving a perspective from somebody with boots in the water, as you said. That's invaluable. That's invaluable because I think we need to understand, and I thank all the industry partners that have been here on the panel in the crowd as well. Industry is not the enemy. Industry is not the enemy of the problem that we're trying to solve. At least not any more than anyone else is an enemy. Any more than anyone who got on an airplane, got in a car, drank from a plastic glass here today is an enemy. It's probably all of us. So we need to, the industry partnerships are going to be key to how we get this message across and how we solve the problems of the future. Very key to understand that the deep ocean is slow to respond. It's slow to react, and it's even slower to come back. Our ocean is resilient, but as the deep ocean changes, things change very slowly on very long timescales, and we don't really understand it. So more sensing of the deep ocean, longer timescales, integrating everything that senses something in the deep ocean, so we can get that data to Zdenka and her network over here. So we've got a truly integrated global ocean observation system and database is going to be key to understanding of science and driving up the chain as well. So that deep ocean part was key to me. The ability to do ecosystem-based management. You know, in the last panel talked about that from two perspectives. From one perspective of we're trying to go more toward that, understanding ecosystem fishery-based management, the importance of that, the difficulties of current legislature and how we might adapt that. But then you, DJ, also talked about you can't look at it one species at a time. Somebody's got to have the big picture. And that's the ecosystem-based management that we need to do. It requires detailed scientific research. So I leave you with these things, and I think about the opportunities that lie ahead. And, you know, the blue economy comes to mind. And I've had some conversations with Dr. Rick Spinrad, who talks, he's an expert in this, so I won't try to recreate his comments on this, but I will tell you, I think there is a growing understanding that there is a great new blue economy, great opportunities, economic opportunities for us to increase ocean resilience while solving the food, water, energy nexus crisis that we have. And some of them were talked about here today as well. Whether it's resilient corals, whether it's making decisions based on an agriculture model for fisheries and aquaculture of the future. Using data to drive decisions that ensure we have economic security, income security, as was talked about, as well, and not just looking at it purely from an environmental perspective. So I think as we take a look at the blue economy, and I'm excited about ocean leadership as we go down this road and trying to capture this in a vision for the future. Some research priorities for the future. Some observation priorities for the future, and maybe even being able to prioritize and get a cohesive understanding of what platforms, what sensors, and what investments that we need to make in the future to get after this problem. And I think it all sort of revolves around that. What are the economic possibilities to do what's right for our ocean and also right for a growing population of humanity that will be 9 billion. And I will leave you with, it comes down to a SMOC at the top of the pyramid to some degree. My new favorite acronym, thanks to Mark Abbott. A small matter of cash. When I came into the Navy, as I said in 1983, the 600-ship Navy was on the horizon. Investments in our defense and understanding that we needed to invest in that crisis to make sure that it didn't happen. If it did, that we and our allies would be the victors. Flatlined investments in the science to maintain the advantage in the ocean that we needed to win the Cold War was not even a question. Flatline was not an option. We had to invest as much as possible. So now we're here at this new crisis. Maybe it's not well enough understood and we've got to work on that. But flatline funding and capping of geosciences to deal with the crisis of the day is unsatisfactory. It's a small matter of cash. So we with ocean leadership playing a big role, the role that the role that we can, need to go after that problem from that context as well. It is the crisis of our times. It's a crisis of our times for a long time, and I think it's not going to be as easy to solve as the Cold War was.